So, hi everyone. Welcome to another Zoom meeting and another podcast episode. If you're watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast, you can find out more about our community, about the podcast, about paid private mentoring with myself on the website. And it's www.acimwithkeith.com. Okay, so let's get on with our meeting. There was a question asked in the group yesterday, and I sort of decided it would be a good subject, an important subject to talk about today. So the question was, I love listening to your podcasts, and sometimes I almost get it. I can remember to step back and watch my thoughts and emotions like they are the weather. I just wonder if you could give a clue about what the still center feels like. Is it a happy place to be, or is it just a calm lack of drama? Now, let me first of all say that salvation is freedom from past and future. It is freedom from suffering and from fear. It's free from any sense of lack or need or want of any kind. And it's freedom from the uncontrollable, compulsive thinking. So that's what we're talking about. And of course, Miracles calls that the quiet center. So it's not a place where there's roller coasters, where the highs are high and the lows are low. It is the changeless dwelling place. It is the part of your mind that never changes. And it's always shining in your mind, even if you're overlooking it to mix yourself with the ego's thoughts. Doesn't mean it's not there. You've just overshot it, overlooked it to mix yourself with thoughts that are not your real thoughts, that don't mean anything and don't exist. Um, so salvation is already shining in your mind, except that you keep overlooking it to apparently lose yourself. What you are is veiled to you from the perspectives of the illusion you think you've mixed yourself up with. But salvation's already here. We only have the ego mind. And when we say ego mind, we mean the thinking mind, the analyzing mind. Um, that mind is the trickster. That mind is the manufacturer of the illusion of separateness, the manufacturer of the illusion of ego. It is the matrix. Because right now, all there is here is the real world. And the real world is that one life is appearing as everything. There are no people here. There is the appearance of people. There are no animals or trees here. There is the appearance of animals and trees. But all of those appearances, they are an appearance of something, which is the one life that you are, and it's shining in your mind now in the stillness. Now, the problem, and it's something that this question addresses. I just wonder if you could give a clue about what the still center feels like. Well, I've done that as best I can. It's easier to say what it's not than say what it is. Um, this brings us to the hardest thing for me to teach people because the mind hears it, the trickster mind hears it and keeps overlooking it, keeps looking beyond it, keeps forgetting it. Because the ego mind, it is seeking its salvation in the future. Now, the ego mind is not you. Thoughts are not you. Course in Miracles says the thoughts I think are not my real thoughts. They don't exist and they don't mean anything. So the mind constantly says to us, you can't get to the quiet center from where you are now. Something needs to change, or you need to change, or you need to become something different before you can know the truth about what you are. The mind says you need time. You need a future moment to save you from where you're at now. You need something to get you to where you want to be. You need to find, understand, change something, become something, do something. You have to attain something or achieve something to know the truth of what you are. That's what the mind tells us. That's what thoughts tell us. The thoughts you only think you think that are not your real thoughts, that don't mean anything and don't exist. None of that's true. Course in Miracles, and mark this down and underline it and tattoo it on your nose. A Course in Miracles is the gospel of now. Now. Let's take a quote. This is from the manual, chapter 24. Well, it's question 24 is the way the manual is done, and it's paragraph 6. The emphasis of this course always remains the same. It is at this moment that complete salvation is offered you. And it is at this moment that you can accept it. This is still your one responsibility. Atonement might be equated with a total escape from the past and a total lack of interest in the future. Heaven is here. In other words, in the now with no past and no future. Heaven is here. There is nowhere else. Heaven is now. There is no other time, no teaching that does not lead to this is of concern to God's teachers. And the problem is that we read A Course in Miracles and we say to ourselves, I wonder what it will be like when. I wonder what it's going to be like when. What do I do to know the peace of God? How do I find the quiet center, the stately calm, the changeless dwelling place? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And we've talked about that in the past as flypaper. What do I do? What's my forgiveness formula? How do I do it? How do I find it? What do I do? Where do I go? And when you do that, you cannot have atonement. Does any of that sound like a total lack of interest in the future? I need to do my forgiveness formula now so the bad stuff can go away. Does that sound like a total lack of interest in the future? How do I get rid of it? How do I get rid of the bad stuff? How do I get rid of my bad thoughts? I've no control over them. How do I gain control over them? Does any of that sound like a total lack of interest in the future? This is the trap. This is the flypaper. This is believing the trickster mind that says salvation is an event in time that's going to save you. It's going to change everything because the trickster mind wants you anywhere except now. Past and future are thoughts manufactured by the mind. But in the present moment, there is no ego. The mind manufactures the idea there's an ego. In the present moment, there's none. In the now, there is no ego. And so everything the mind does is to keep you the hell out of the now, where salvation is. Time is the obstacle to salvation. Time is the obstacle to atonement. Again, atonement might be equated with a total escape from the past and a total lack of interest in the future. Heaven is here. Heaven is now. And so whenever you listen to thoughts, you're led astray. You don't have to stop them. You don't have to fix them. You don't have to suffocate them. You need to understand thoughts are nothing. Lesson number 4, these thoughts do not mean anything. Thoughts drag you out of the now into an imaginary past, which is frightful and terrible and guilty and victimized. And they pull you out of the now into a frightening future, which does nonetheless hold out some hope for salvation. When I become enlightened, when I become better at forgiveness, when I get rid of the bad thoughts, when I get rid of my sin, guilt, and fear. It's all nonsense. You're back in the matrix of the mind, and there's no atonement. There's no salvation. There is only illusion, misperceiving yourself. That's all there is in the mind. The ego mind, the thinking mind, the one that pretends to be you. Let's take another quote from the Course. This one's from chapter 5, section 2, paragraph 7. The voice of the Holy Spirit does not command, because the voice of the Holy Spirit is silent stillness. The voice of the Holy Spirit does not command, because it is incapable of arrogance. It does not demand, because it does not seek to control. It does not overcome, because it does not attack. Seeking control, trying to attack, making demands involves time. Let me do this to establish something. So there's none of that in the right mind. There's no demands made at the present moment. There's no seeking to control anything. There's no desire to overcome anything, and there's nothing that gets attacked. That involves salvation in time. If this is changed, salvation will come. No, that's delusion. That is the obstacle to atonement. That's the obstacle to the miracle. That is the obstacle to salvation. Time. So the Holy Spirit doesn't do any of that. merely reminds. It is compelling only because of what it reminds you of. It brings to your mind the other way. Remaining quiet, even in the midst of the turmoil you may make. The voice for God is always quiet because it speaks of peace. Remaining quiet, even in the midst of the turmoil the mind makes. That's the other way. That's the other way. That's forgiveness. There is nothing else you can do to awaken other than remain quiet in the midst of the noise of sin, guilt, and fear coming up as emotions and the insane thoughts that are going out like hungry dogs of fear looking for people to blame for the suffering. And in the midst of that, you remain quiet. There is nothing else you can do so that you, the quiet center, awaken to what you are as the quiet center. Not you, the person, there's no person. You, the quiet center that's appearing as all people. For you to awaken to yourself, all you can do is remain quiet in the midst of the noise of the ego's emotions and thoughts and feelings. There is nothing else you can do. That's how awakening happens. Course in Miracles says forgiveness is still and it quietly does nothing. It looks and waits and judges not. You become quiet in the midst of the madness of your mind. You look, you wait for the madness to clear, and however long it takes, all the while, you judge nothing. You label nothing. You don't call anything bad. You don't go to war with anything. You don't make demands. You don't try to control anything. You don't try to fix anything. You don't try to change anything. If you do, you are lost to the illusion of time, and atonement is unavailable to you. You must have a total lack of interest in the future. That's what forgiveness is. I will allow this moment to be. I will allow all things to be exactly as they are. The minute I do that, there is a silence here that is witness to the raucous shrieking and the sick imaginings of the mind. But something, a silence, a stillness is here, witness to it, and unsoiled by it, untouched by it. It is a pure presence. Presence that is here quiet in the midst of the raucous shrieking and sick imagining is the one life that's appearing as everything and everyone. The forms, the broken pieces seem to take me nothing, excuse me, for the whole is in each one, this presence. And every aspect of the Son of God is just the same as every other part. That insane voice talking to itself in your mind that wants to analyze and control and make demands and that wants to do something and that wants to know what salvation will be like and what it needs to do, that's not you. That's not you. You are the presence that precedes all that nonsense. that's shining in your mind in this moment if you don't confuse yourself with the raucous shrieking and the sick imaginings. The other way, drop all resistance, drop all demands, drop all doing. Stop trying to control something. Stop trying to fix something. Stop trying to become something. Surrender to this moment exactly as it is. Because it is only in this moment salvation is. It is not in the next moment when you get rid of the bad stuff. That's a judgment. That's a fighting of this moment and the seeking for salvation in the next moment. That's nonsense. In the next moment, when the Holy Spirit takes it off me, when Jesus takes it off me, nonsense. Salvation is here and now or nowhere. Salvation is now or never. Again, make no mistake about it. A Course in Miracles is the gospel of now. That's it. Do not look for peace anywhere other than now. Do not look for truth anywhere but now. Do not look for the Holy Spirit anywhere but now, or it's delusion. You've been taken in by the trickster mind. You're back in the matrix of the mind, seeking salvation in the future, an imaginary future. It is all about this moment and your forgiveness of it. That is the only thing you can do to help yourself, and it's all that's asked. That's your little willingness. You forgive this moment exactly as it is. And in this moment, by your forgiveness, is salvation found. That's it. You fall still in the middle of the thoughts that are not your real thoughts, that don't mean anything, that don't exist. Lesson 52. You fall still in the middle of that and stop confusing yourself with it. It's not you. And you allow whatever sin, guilt, and fear has come up from your unconscious mind to try to vomit out onto the emptiness dancing. That is the world, the appearances that have no meaning whatsoever and no cause. And you catch your projections and you bring them home and you sit with the sin, guilt, and fear that you made up until your total acceptance and forgiveness of it in this moment undoes them. That's the way home. You, in this moment, will sit with the sin, guilt, and fear you made up, even if it's forever. Because your job is total peace with the non-peace you made up to prove you are a separate self that doesn't exist. You stop all resistance, stop all fighting, stop trying to do something. That's nonsense. That is the illusion of time. That is seeking your salvation where it doesn't exist in the next moment. It is now or never. Let go. Total forgiveness. Notice when you look at the madness in your mind, how you hate yourself, how you want it to be changed and different, how you think you should be different, how you think other people are. Forgive. It's not you. It doesn't matter. Total surrender to it exactly as it is. And the awful feelings and the adrenaline and the heart pumping and the hatred, and so what? You made this up. You made up suffering, sin, guilt, and fear to prove that you were a separate self. But there's no such thing as a separate self. Okay? You surrender to the sin, guilt, and fear. And you discover a presence that's here, which has nothing to do with thought. It transcends thought. It has nothing to do with time. It transcends time. In total letting go, in total surrender. Total surrender. No doing. No doing. Allow everything to be exactly as it is. And there is a silent presence here that transcends time and transcends thought. It's outside of thought. Thought happens in the presence, but presence is totally unaffected by it. You're not the voice in your head. You are the space between the thoughts, the space between the feelings. You are the background, silence to the noise, the raucous shrieking of the ego that's not you. You are the silence within which all of the weather of the ego's thoughts and feelings arises and dissolves. And the space is ever unaffected by it. It's in your mind now. Whatever thoughts are in your mind now, they're hanging there in a space. You are the space, not the thoughts. And all you have to do is nothing. Nothing. So there's an ego attack coming on, there's rage coming up, and all you have to do is not judge it, not try and change it, not try and fix it, not tell yourself stories about it. Become quiet in the midst of the turmoil that your ego's making. And there's a silence here. It was here all along. It's the background to the rage, it's the space between the mad words. It's here already. And when you surrender, when you decide to do nothing, but look, not judge, and wait for the storm to pass. And the peace that you are is unaffected by it. You are that peace. You don't have to look for it. You don't have to merit it. You don't have to deserve it. You don't have to do something. You have to forgive. You have to stop doing. You have to surrender. You have to allow. You have to permit. That sounds like you're doing something. In truth, you're doing nothing. I'm saying these things so you stop the doing that you're doing. So you can slip out of the matrix of the mind and experience what you are outside of thoughts as a stillness, as silence. This is all you can do. It's all that's asked. It's the little willingness. This is all you can do. Everyone tries to use the mind to get to the peace and the stillness. If you're moving the mind like that, how does that produce stillness? Salvation is right here in this moment, or it's nowhere. Forget about 3 seconds' time. Forget about 3 years' time. Forget about 3 seconds ago. Forget about 3 years ago. Forget about 30 years ago. What is here when you forgive? When you silently do nothing but look at the insane monkey mind and the crazy emotions, what happens when you look and you judge none of it and you fight none of it and you resist none of it and you're trying to fix or change none of it? You discover an equanimity that is here in the midst of anything the ego is doing. But it's now or never. It is this present moment or nothing. If you're here going, oh, it's going to get better in a few minutes if I keep forgiving. No, 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 no. No, the mind has tricked you again that your salvation is somewhere else. Course in Miracles is about you undoing your mind's projections, which is the thoughts in your mind going, I'm upset because of this, and I'm upset because of that, and people shouldn't do this, and people should do this, and this is not what people should do. Nonsense. That's emptiness dancing. It doesn't mean any of that. You made it up. Why did you make it up? As a defense against the sin, guilt, and fear in your mind. As a defense against the forgiveness of the sin, guilt in your mind and its undoing. Merely looking and waiting and judging not, and having the whole thing collapse as the illusion that it is. But you made a world. So you could go, that means that, and that means that, and this person did it to me, and that's because of my abuse past, and that's because of what this person did to me, and that's because of what my partner did to me. That's all nonsense. That's not you. It's not you. I've no private thoughts. It's only private thoughts I'm aware. What can they mean? They do not exist and they mean nothing. Lesson 52. That's not you. You don't have private thoughts. That's the matrix. Don't listen to it. Don't identify with it. Don't think you are a thinker of thoughts. You are not a thinker of thoughts. You have no private thoughts. So how do you rescue yourself from the matrix? You forgive. You do nothing. You stop the doing. You stop the becoming. You stop the fixing. You stop trying to do something, and you discover that in this present moment is salvation. This is from chapter 18. It's from section 4 and it's paragraph 7. It is this that makes the holy instant so easy and so natural. You make it difficult because you insist there must be more that you need to do. You find it difficult to accept the idea that you need give so little to receive so much. What's the little? Become still in the middle of the turmoil your mind is making. The thoughts that are not your real thoughts and the sin, guilt, and fear that you made up. Your what do I do? How do I fix it? How do I fix myself? How do I change myself? How do I make the bad stuff go away? You make it difficult. That's got nothing to do with the holy instant. The holy instant is already here now. But you're busy trying to do something, trying to become something, trying to be holy. That's delusion. You find it difficult to accept the idea that you need give so little to receive so much. And it is very hard for you to realize it is not personally insulting that your contribution and the Holy Spirit's are so extremely disproportionate. You are still convinced that your understanding with thoughts is a powerful contribution to the truth and makes it what it is. Yet we have emphasized that you need to understand nothing. Salvation is easy just because it asks nothing you cannot give right now. How could your understanding of the truth make it what it is when the truth is outside of those thoughts that mean nothing. The truth is the stillness you already are now, unless you are lost to the matrix of the mind, blaming the past and seeking your salvation in the next 5 minutes when you do forgiveness and it works. You've missed salvation because it's now in the midst of whatever is going on. It's now in the midst of total surrender to what's going on. It's now where the world is worlding and thoughts are thoughting and emotions are emoting, and there is nothing here that is resisting it. It's who you are. And that's the one life that's appearing as all the world. Sure, the mind tells you that you're a person and you're a separate self in a world full of separate selves, and you're a body and you're here because of what two other bodies did, and you have a guilty past and a frightening future, and you need to defend yourself. That's not true. It's all made up. It's all made up. Thought lies. You don't have to understand anything except that salvation is here in this moment, as I am, without a past or future. And that's instantly available to you if you stop. The miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still. Does that mean the thoughts stop? No, they're not you. Does that mean the emotions stop? No, they're not you. You stop. You, the stillness that has been here all the while in the background. You stop fighting and having commentaries and having opinions and trying to fix things and trying to. You stop. No matter what the mind is doing, no matter what the emotions are doing, you stop. You, the silence in your mind within which all thoughts and feelings rise and dissolve. And you're not rising and dissolving with them. That's who you are. It's shining in your mind now. All your thoughts just run into each other and talk like this, and there's no gaps anywhere, and does everyone else talk like this, and there's no gaps anywhere? No, there is a silence in between. You are that. You are not the noise. It's not your identity. You have to do nothing. Everyone's like, oh, I still have the bad thoughts, and oh, I don't have enough moments of stillness. Are you talking about the past? That doesn't exist. Oh, I'm not as far as other people are yet. Are you talking about the future? That doesn't exist. There's no atonement for you. Stop listening to your thoughts. Stop believing them. Stop thinking they're you. Stop thinking they make a powerful contribution to the truth. They do not, because the truth is outside of thoughts. Salvation can be seen as nothing more than the escape from concepts. Forget this world, forget this course, and come with holy empty hands unto your God. How do you do that? You stop. In this moment, what is witness to this ego attack of thoughts and feelings and emotions coming up? What sees it without judgment? What is the space in my mind in which this circus has arisen and into which it'll collapse? What is witness? That's who you are. Make your stand as that. You must understand that the mind is a trickster. It's not you, but it pretends to be you. And everything it says, every thought that arises, with it arises the thought that you are the separate self body that's having the thought. But there's nobody having the thought. You're the stillness. You're the one life that's appearing as everything and everyone, the light of the world. Not a separate self with private thoughts. That's a delusion if you listen to your thoughts. You don't have to stop them or fix them or do anything about them. You need to become quiet in the midst of them and know yourself as the quiet instead of the noise. And that's all you can do. There's nothing else. You become present because there's only now. Everything else is the mind's tricks. There's no past or future. There are thoughts. You are the now. And all you can do is become present. Witness to whatever shape this moment is taking with no opinion or judgment or fighting of it or trying to do something or seeking your salvation in the future or blaming your unhappiness on the past. You become present now. You exit the matrix of thoughts that's telling you your salvation's in the future. There's no future. There's now. That's it. You can only get here by realizing you're already here. By looking at the matrix of the mind and the sin, guilt, and fear coming up and not fighting it. And that's all that's asked. Because the silent space that you are will tell you of itself. And as you become present, instead of off in mad thoughts that aren't you, as you become present, witness, forgiver, looker without commentary or opinion, as you know yourself as this, in this moment, the now, all of the sin, guilt, and fear is getting undone. And as it is, your ability to clearly know this silence and stillness that you are, it's improving. Until one day you make a switch where you realize the noise in my head was never me. Identity is a total delusion made out of thoughts. I was this all along. But you can't make that a goal. The Course in Miracles says God is my only goal. If that's your only goal, you have to let go of all goals, including that one, and be here now in this moment. For whatever sin, guilt, and fear is coming up, for whatever mad thoughts are flying. And your presence now will dissolve it. And the stillness and the silence that you are will tell you of itself. But you cannot turn it into a goal. You can only become present now, no matter what the mind and the emotions are doing. There is nothing else you can do. Don't go praying for salvation in the future. Don't go thinking forgiveness is going to give you something. Forgiveness gives you now. And in the beginning, there's a very personal sense of space, peace that's here. And you put all your attention on it, and then a presence that's completely impersonal, which the Course calls the Holy Spirit. It comes and rests in the still place that you've made in your mind. Chapter 16, section 4, paragraph 6. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you've built against it. You already are love. You already are stillness. You already are silence. You already are the now. Your task is not to go looking for that and find it in the future. Your job is to be what you are now through total forgiveness. And the barriers that you've built against clearly seeing and knowing the truth of what you are, which is the sin, guilt, and fear, and the insane thoughts that are not your real thoughts, that don't mean anything and don't exist, you see them. You look, you do nothing, you wait, and you judge not. And what is it in the middle of the sin, guilt, and fear and the thoughts that are not your real thoughts? It's what you already are. Make your stand here. It doesn't matter if Angel Gabriel doesn't come down and blow his horn. It doesn't matter if there's no 1812 symphony and fireworks. That's you looking for something. That's you seeking something. Fall still through forgiveness. This is from chapter 18. It's section 7 and it's paragraph 7. Who do anything involves the body. It also involves time. If you recognize you need do nothing, you have withdrawn the body's value from your mind. Here is the quick and open door through which you slip past centuries of effort and escape from time. This is the way in which sin loses all attraction right now. For here is time denied and past and future gone. Total escape from the past, complete lack of interest in the future. What's here in this moment? Salvation. Who needs do nothing has no need for time. To do nothing is to rest. Stop trying to do anything. To do nothing is to rest. Stop all doing. Complete cessation of doing and resisting and seeking. Stop. In this moment, the now. And make a place within you where the activity of the body ceases to demand attention. Into this place, the Holy Spirit comes and there abides. Okay? You learn how to remain quiet in the midst of the turmoil your ego, your wrong mind makes. Be the silent witness, the non-judgmental observer. Be the silence in the midst of the noise through total forgiveness. And into this place comes the Holy Spirit, who is you, your true self, your right-minded self, the one life that's appearing as all the world. Into this place the Holy Spirit comes and there abides. He will remain when you forget. This presence, outside of thoughts, this light that's appearing as everything and everyone, which is the right-minded truth of you, will remain once it comes. And the body's activities return to occupy your conscious mind. Yet there will always be this place of rest to which you can return. How would you return? With a miracle, forgiveness. No resistance to the present moment. To come deeply into the now, which is where your salvation is now. Not when you do a formula, not when you get rid of sin, guilt, and fear, not when the fear stops, not when the awfulness stops, now in the forgiveness of whatever form this moment takes. That's salvation, not the changing of thoughts or states or feelings. Salvation is the forgiveness of them all in this moment, which brings you deeply back into this present moment of now. Yet there will always be this place of rest to which you can return. And you will be more aware of this quiet center of the storm than all its raging activity. This quiet center in which you do nothing will remain with you, giving you rest in the midst of every busy doing on which you are sent. From this center, will you be directed how to use the body sinlessly? It is this center from which the body is absent that will keep it so in your awareness of it. You are this quiet center, the emptiness of being. And again, with the original question, what's it like? What it eventually is that you come to this still point, this quiet center, this emptiness of being. And then it's not just that. This emptiness of being is all form. And all form is this emptiness of being. Because what you are transcends form and emptiness, but encompasses what it transcends. And that's freedom. That's the real world. That's freedom from the tyranny of the mind, freedom from compulsive thoughts, freedom from lack and fear and need and want, freedom from the past and freedom from the future. Full emptiness, the emptiness of being that is the fullness of all life everywhere. Don't turn it into a goal. You can't, or you're lost. You can only become still in the midst of the turmoil your ego makes, and that's forgiveness. And the full emptiness that you are will tell you of itself and will dissolve all of the egoic nonsense. All you have to do is do nothing. But everyone's busy trying to do and fix and change and get rid of things and make things go away. Lost. No atonement. No miracle. It is at this moment complete salvation is offered to you. Be what is still in the midst of the mind's rantings and the sin, guilt, and fear storms. That's the truth of what you are now, already. And as you make your stand here as this stillness, as this non judgmental observer of the matrix of the mind and not lost in it, your presence in the now will dissolve all the blocks to clearly knowing what you have already made your stand at. You just make your stand here through forgiveness. The ego is constantly waiting for an event in time that will save it. The ego believes in the illusion of salvation in the future, and its version of that is salvation through sacrifice. If I stop this behavior, if I stop that behavior, if I start a new behavior, then that'll make me happy. If I get rid of the sin, guilt, and fear in my mind, that's going to make me happy in the future. If I get what I want in the world, that'll make me happy. That's the mind's lies. The ego mind is waiting for an event that will save it. When it understands A Course in Miracles, when it's better at forgiveness, when it becomes awakened. That's delusion. That's delusion. There's no future. Those are thoughts. Tricks your mind again. It is at this moment complete salvation is offered you. It's now or never. And the minute you think salvation can be won as a calendar event in 3 seconds' time or 3 years' time, you are deluded. Gospel of Now. Here's chapter 16, and it's section 7. In the holy instant, which is now. In the holy instant, it is understood that the past is gone, and with its passing, the drive for vengeance has been uprooted and disappeared. The stillness and the peace of now enfold you in perfect gentleness. Everything is gone except the truth. The Gospel of Now. This is from chapter 5, section 3, and it's paragraph 6. Time is a belief of the ego. So the lower mind, which is the ego's domain, accepts it without question. The only aspect of time that is eternal is now. A Course in Miracles. The Gospel of Now. This is from chapter 13. Look lovingly upon the present, for it holds the only things that are forever true. All healing lies within it, because its continuity is real. It extends to all aspects of the sonship at the same time, and thus enables them to reach each other. The present is before time was and will be when time is no more. In the Bible, Jesus is reputed to have said, "Before Abraham was, I am." He did not make time real and say, "Before Abraham was, I was." The present is before time was and will be when time is no more, because time is a thought and what you are is now. Do not seek salvation anywhere except through total forgiveness of the now. Not by resisting it and seeking a different now. This is from 13, section 4, paragraph 7. His Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is you when you're not stuck in the molasses of thoughts, when you're not believing them and thinking you're thinking them. The Holy Spirit is the one life that's appearing as everything and never ceasing to be itself. The forms, the broken pieces seem to take me nothing, for the whole is in each one. That whole is you. You're not a separate self with private thoughts, a body, thinking insane thoughts and hating the world and itself. That's not you. And you'll discover that when the quiet comes to tell you of itself in the holy instant of now. His emphasis is therefore on the only aspect of time that can extend to the infinite. For now is the closest approximation of eternity that this world offers. It is in the reality of now, without past or future, that the beginning of the appreciation of eternity lies. For only now is here, and only now presents the opportunities for the holy encounters in which salvation can be found. So this was by way of helping to tweak your forgiveness practice to make sure you're not seeking salvation in the future through forgiveness, but salvation by remembering what you are in this moment, no matter what shape this moment takes. It is not when you get through anxiety. It is not when you get through hate. It is not when you get through fear or shame. Salvation is what you are in the midst of this by means of forgiveness, which is quietly doing nothing, looking, waiting, judging not, becoming quiet in the midst of the turmoil your ego makes. And what you are will tell you of itself. Right, my lovely co-host Eli. um, we will go to Hans. So is Amanda first?
Yes, she certainly is. I'll get her to unmute.
And if you can follow that request to unmute yourself.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me well?
We can indeed.
My question is about using something for the Holy Spirit's purpose. Here in Brazil, a lot of people are into taking ayahuasca. I'm sure you've heard about it. I think you even took it. I heard you saying in one of your
No, no,
videos.
no,
Oh,
I've
you
never said
didn't.
no, no.
Okay, so anyway, it brings the darkness to the surface, all the sin, guilt, and fear. At least in my case, it becomes like really intense. I don't really like to take it. Like I can see it's useful, but my partner is really into it. And our friends, I made a lot of friends in this group, but I have this conflict. Should I go to the ceremonies and take it or not? I know I don't want to put my salvation on this. Like a lot of people here do this. I can
Good.
see that.
Okay, good. That's what you want to look at. Okay. Let me do this ceremony and I will become holy. Let me do this and that's going to attain salvation for me. I will awake. So
Yeah.
that's time. Okay, you're believing the trickster mind again. All you have to do is fall still in this moment. But the mind is going, don't go into the present moment. Don't go in there. Don't go into the light. Don't go into the now, because it's the death of the ego. So all your thoughts are like, don't do that. Go off and do ceremonies. Book one for 3 months' time. That's gonna get you there. Don't go into the now. Don't do it now. Always the future. When I do this. And that's the ego seeking. So you don't have to do anything except in this moment. Become quiet in the midst of all this nonsense, that noise that your mind is making. Or we keep The mind keeps wanting us to escape the now. If I do these ceremonies, if I read another book, if I do this retreat, if I find another teacher, if I read more of the course, if I practice more of the course lessons, anything except fall still now in the midst of the turmoil your ego makes. So it's
And
not my,
if I,
it's not, it's, I don't want to, I don't want to keep, I don't want to get myself into trouble with YouTube by discussing this. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to give any advice to anyone on anything that they do with any substances whatsoever. That's not my place to do. Um, you know, as was it? Oh yeah, Krishnamurti. It's like he said with sex. Either have sex or don't, but get on with it. All right. So I'm going to say to you, either take it or don't, but get on with it. But what has that got to do with now?
oh yeah, so that's what I wanted to get into. So I can still choose to go there with this awareness that you just said. I don't need it. I'm just choosing to go to, I don't know, because my friends are going there and my
Yeah, but
partner is
Amanda,
going
your
there.
salvation is now.
Yes.
Whatever you're going to do it, don't, but get on with it. But that's got nothing to do with your salvation because that's already here.
Okay. So
And
that's the awareness that I need to have for everything, right? Not just for the ceremonies, right? It's for everything.
yeah. Once you overlook the space, the stillness, the silence you already are that's shining in your mind right now, if you stop mixing yourself with thoughts by forgiving them instead of identifying with them, if you come home to this as the truth of who you are right now, that's salvation. And all the ego's lies and tricks will dissolve in the presence you are in this moment. And you've got to do nothing except look without judgment and know yourself as this that looks. And notice when you've gone into thoughts that are going, oh, when you do this, this is going to be wonderful. This will be your salvation. Once you overlook the truth of what you already are, you plunge into the ego's matrix, and the sole activity of the ego begins seeking and resisting, seeking and resisting, seeking and resisting, seeking and resisting, grasping and grievances, special love, special hate, special love, special hate. You're lost. And all you have to do when you notice that you're lost, that you don't know who you already are, is fall still in the midst of the turmoil that your mind is making. And that slips you out of the matrix, which is just identifying with thoughts that are not your real thoughts. You come home to the quiet center in this moment, whatever form this moment takes, and you be fully present. You inhabit the now instead of escaping it in thoughts about how the past messed you up and the future is going to save you or destroy you. You come home to now and you discover what's not in time, what transcends time, what transcends thought, what you already are, the salvation that's already here, now or never. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I don't even have to get in discussions with people that want me to go, insist me to go. It's just like it
And
doesn't matter,
look,
right?
I think it's just good sense that if you don't want to do something and people are insisting that you do it, that you put your foot down. Okay. But again, nothing is right or wrong, but thinking makes it so. The only thing we should ask, if anything, is what is its purpose? If you return back to the solid stillness and it does not feel right for you to do that, then don't do it. But if you're going, I don't want to look at my brokenness, I want to look at holiness instead and chase salvation in the future rather than face my darkness, now you have to look at that and go, hang on a minute. What about now? Your salvation is here in the midst of whatever darkness and whatever light. It's now or
Mhm.
never. Whatever is here. So if you're here busy resisting, going, I don't want to look at the darkness, I don't want to look at the darkness, okay, that's you resisting the now. So until you stop doing that, there's no atonement. There's no way to know the truth of who you are. You can't resist the present moment and know who you are. So again, take it or don't, but get on with it. But what does that have to do with now? Now is where your salvation is in this moment. And the only problem you have is that you think you're thinking.
Okay.
So when you find
Thank you.
yourself lost in the matrix of thoughts and not in the now, um, come home to the now by forgiving thoughts instead of identifying with them. They're not you. And your salvation isn't in the future or through blaming the past. It is through knowing what you are in this moment, regardless of whatever turmoil the ego makes. You come home there and you stay there. And each time you find yourself lost to the matrix of the mind, you use a miracle, forgiveness, to come back here. Get the hell out of thoughts. Every single right-minded thought is a way to unstick yourself from thoughts. The entire thought system of the Holy Spirit, it is saying to you, listen, everything is either a call for love and an expression of love. So all you have to do is express love. You don't get involved with thoughts. You thought it was because of this, and that's because of this, and I should do this. No, you were wrong. It was either a call for love or it was an expression of love. All you do is love and get the hell out of thoughts. Under the Holy Spirit's unification of purpose, everything that's happening in this moment, no matter what it is, has only one purpose: forgiveness. Sin, guilt, and fear will come up in your mind and try to vomit out onto the circumstances. And you get to say, the circumstances mean nothing. They have only one purpose, which is forgiveness, which is for me to see this darkness and not judge it and not fight it and do nothing about it and not seek redemption from it in the future, but through total forgiveness of it being here in this moment. That is the only purpose of the world. No need to get involved with thoughts. That's what the Holy Spirit says. Listen, everything is for forgiveness. So you don't think about it. Don't get involved with thoughts. Come home to the quiet center. And everyone is expressing love or calling out for love, and all you got to do is extend them love. Don't get involved with thoughts. All separation, sin, guilt, and fear, the fact that you're a self that doesn't actually exist, the fact that you don't know you're the one life that's appearing as everything, all of that is manufactured by the trickster mind. Get the hell out of it and come home to the quiet center through forgiveness. That's all A Course in Miracles is about. And each time you come home here to be fully present in the now, the obstacles in your mind get dissolved by the presence of what you are now. So thanks for that, Amanda.
Thank you.
So Darlana next, is it? Eli?
It is, yes.
Oh, go for it, Darlana.
Hey, how you doing, Keith?
All good.
Um, look,
Always good in the now.
it's always good in the now, and that's why I'm asking this question because it's
Mhm.
so hard for me to get there. I'm in the weeds, in the matrix, in the flypaper, in the everything right now. I made a really bad financial decision, and I just can't stop thinking about it and the consequences and repercussions of it. And I'm going over and over it in my mind. And it's so much so that I'm afraid I'm going to go psychotic again. And so, I know that this is the truth, what you're saying, that I have to be in the now. But even putting the now off for 3 seconds is putting not being in the now. Like saying, I need to listen to Keith so I can be in the now
No.
is
So all you have to do is just witness what your mind is doing and don't put a label on it or judge it or try and fix it. What happens in
okay.
this moment? What happens in this moment if the voice that isn't you is ranting and raving and pretending to be you, and you decide, I will do nothing about that? I will not put a label on it. I will not judge it. I will not seek salvation in the future from it. I will be fully present with it. What happens?
Well, I feel peaceful, like I'm
Yes,
feeling
you
peaceful
did.
right
Now,
now.
now you make your stand as that peace, but this is where you have to be very careful that you're not going, is it gone yet? Is it gone yet? Is it gone yet? Is it changed yet? This peace is non-negotiable. This peace is here in the midst of deepest despair, darkest depression, awful anxiety. In the midst of it, there is a peace when you decide, I will do nothing. I will allow the sin, guilt, and fear that's coming up, and I will forgive the thoughts that are trying to say it means something, which means I should project it out onto the world. The fact is, whatever upset is here is sin, guilt, and fear. Bad financial decision did not cause the suffering that's here. The suffering that's here, sin, guilt, and fear, you made the world and the story of Lana and a bad investment. You did that to cover up the sin, guilt, and fear that was here on the inside
Hmm.
because of choosing to be something other than the peace that you are. So rather than know the peace, the oneness that is here, the equanimity that is here as the truth of God, Son, and the Holy Spirit, rather than know this, there was a decision that says, no, I'm not that. I'm going to listen to this thought system. And I'm going to think of these thoughts as mine. And terrible suffering is here. And now, so this is awful, but I'm going to make a world to blame for the suffering.
Hmm.
Okay. Instead of letting go of this madness of identifying with thoughts and come home to the peace that I already am. So, okay, so you, the one mind that's making the whole world, so you did that. So what? So now you go, okay, well, this whole situation with a bad investment is only for forgiveness. You shift its purpose. That's the
Yeah.
unification of purpose. It doesn't matter what's happening. It's perfect. It's actually for your good. Not the good of an imaginary separate self, the good of you, the peace that you already are, that is awakened to itself from the delusion that it can be sinful, guilty, and fearful, or that it's a body, or that it's a creature of time. Okay, so there was a situation happened and there was a bad investment. Great. That's for forgiveness. That is all things working together for good. There are no exceptions except in the ego's judgment. It's perfect. Okay, no need to get involved with thoughts then, because under the unification of purpose, it is for your good. Get the hell out of thoughts, but there's suffering here. Brilliant. This is the sin, guilt, and fear that your presence will dissolve, because that's the way home. That's it. So all you do is, but let the thoughts rant and rave. Okay, they're not true because whatever's happening is purely for you to awaken to the peace that's here in this moment. And you do that, forgive the thoughts, don't believe them or identify with them. All right. You're a mind, not a body. And you allow this suffering to be here and you go deeply into it. And you do not tell yourself stories about it. You do not believe the mind's rantings about it. You do not leave the present moment. You sit here and you forgive it. And
Okay.
find the peace that's already here in the midst of it. And that will dissolve it. And you've undone big obstacles to the awareness of the truth of who you are. And that's the name of the game. You're not here for anything else. You're not here to make good investments. You're not here for everything to go flowery. You're not here for everything to be fabulous. All right? You're here to awaken to the truth of what you are. And you do that in the now. And you do that through forgiveness.
Yeah.
So you've just realized, even in the midst of all of this, peace is here. Yes, it is, because it's what you are. Unless you mix yourself with thoughts and misinterpret yourself, misperceive yourself. Okay, but don't do that. Come the hell out of thoughts. There's nothing good mixing yourself with thoughts and thinking you're thinking thoughts. There's only suffering there. The minute you leave the peace that's here and get involved with thoughts, in the beginning it feels like a dream. It doesn't take long before it turns into a nightmare. So even if you've succumbed to the temptation of going, what's the harm in getting involved with a few of these thoughts? Hell will follow, and use a miracle to get the hell back out of thoughts. Come home to the
Yeah.
peace you already are in this moment.
Yeah.
Does that
So
make
it's the
sense?
gospel of now.
It's the gospel of now, which
Okay.
means, the past where there was a bad investment, let's forget that. Let's have total freedom from that. It's only a thought. And the future, how do I stop the thoughts? How do I stop the feelings? You got to let that go. You've got to become peaceful with everything, all things exactly as they are now,
Mm-hmm. That
to
includes
remember
the
who you
crazy
are.
thoughts.
Yeah, but they're not you, so it doesn't matter.
I just witnessed them.
Yeah, yeah. But as you do that, what's witnessing? What is the equanimity that's here? I said to you, what happens? And you said, well, there's peace here. What? You turn around and you investigate that peace. So you can learn of yourself, because that's who you are. The thoughts have nothing to do with you. They veil this peace that's already here. You investigate this in the midst of what thoughts and feelings are doing, because that's God's son. That's who you are. So thanks for that,
Well,
Lana.
thank you very much.
Pleasure. So shall we go to Lisa next, Eli?
Yes, absolutely.
If you want to unmute yourself, Lisa, you should have an invite. Perfect.
Hey, Keith.
Hi.
Talking about the now, that's where I'm having a little bit of a problem too. Getting to the quiet place all the time. So what I usually do, here's my method, even though we don't have methods, but I welcome it. And then I look at it with the Holy Spirit. But my big problem is anxiety. So I rage. And I know that's just, one of the things that everyone has problems with, different problems. But I rage and I have a hard time getting on my thoughts, but then I breathe into it. And then I start getting onto my thoughts and I start getting into the now. And then when I get there, then I lose sight of everything that's going on around me. And I'm just in the now and the quiet, but I can't feel or hear any of the anxiety that's going on anymore. And I'm wondering, am I bypassing I'm going into like a blackness where I feel nothing, see nothing, it's silence, but I can't feel the rage around me anymore. And I'm not sure if I'm bypassing by not feeling anything around me anymore. I just feel silence. And is that what I'm supposed to be looking for?
Well, our job is not to hide in the light from the darkness. Okay. Um, let's unpack a little bit. You see, there are fundamental problems with, even the thought that how do I get into the now? How do I do this? How do I do that? So we don't do that. What we do is we become peaceful with whatever is present. See? So not I will be in the now when I breathe into it. I will have peace when I change the state. Okay, no. Peace is already here in the midst of whatever's happening, in the midst of anxiety. So what you want to do is you want to find the peace that's here through complete forgiveness of the anxiety, through the welcoming of the anxiety, because that's the sin, guilt, and fear that's coming up to get healed. That's brilliant. See, this is not a problem. The problem is the thoughts that project the anxiety, that sort of take you out of the now, instead of being present with the sin, guilt, and fear that just wants to be seen so it dissolves. So, so what I would say to you is, you are the now. You don't have to become it. You don't have to breathe into it. What you have to do is you have to stop. There needs to be a cessation of trying to do anything to find salvation in the next moment. And instead, it is the total allowing of this moment and whatever it brings. So in this way, you are now bringing the darkness to the light. You're not kind of going off to hang out in a place in your mind that the darkness can't get into. What you want to do is you want to come home to equanimity and peace through total forgiveness of the now in whatever form it takes. And then you are the light that's shining on the darkness. So our job is bringing the darkness to the light. It's not going and hanging out in the light and escaping the darkness. And it's not trying to bring light to darkness. It's not staying in the darkness going, oh, let me bring the light in to rescue me. No, 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 that's not the now. That's salvation in the future. It's the mind's nonsense. No, it is total forgiveness of this moment. It's a total cessation of doing with the anxiety that's present. It's the giving it permission to be here and being within it without stories about it, without believing the mind's rantings about it. It is to be fully present and experience it and not put a label on it or judge it. And that's how we undo guilt, sin, guilt, and fear. So the anxiety coming up is not a problem. No emotion is ever a problem. The problem is the thoughts that want to project it and take you out of the now where your presence would dissolve the emotion. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. But without the breathing into it, I have a problem getting out of the thoughts. Like they just rage. And so when I breathe into it, I sometimes feel peace. Sometimes I go into tears. But if I,
Yeah,
when I
but
try
be
not to,
careful. Be careful that you're not saying my peace is about changing what thoughts are doing. It's not. Your peace is through forgiveness and surrender of what thoughts and feelings are doing. That's it. So, see, as soon as you go, oh, if I get out of thoughts, no. The way you do that is always now. Now is the portal. It's now or never. Once you go, if I do this, then this, you're lost. Your only job is to become quiet in the midst of the turmoil your ego is making. Forgiveness is still and it quietly does nothing. It looks and waits and judges not. I'm not saying don't breathe. I mean, look at if that's something you want to do, you go and do it. But I'm telling you that forgiveness establishes the equanimity that is here in the midst of anything, even if it's a crucifixion. And it's through total non-resistance, non-judgment, non-interference, non-doing. It does nothing except look, wait, judge not. And the gates of hell cannot prevail against the presence you are when you do that. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
I was using the breathing to get me to the quiet. So that was my doer.
Yeah, and we're not going to put a label on that and go it's good or bad. But what I am saying is your portal to salvation is in this moment through forgiveness. The only thing you can do in this moment is you can fall still in the midst of what the ego is doing and know the truth of what you are as the stillness through the forgiveness. And now you give that anxiety permission to be present as long as it needs to be, so that this presence you are now can see it, know it, and dissolve it totally.
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah. So we're never, see, once we're doing this to change a state, oh, I have anxiety. I need to get out of the anxiety. I need to like breathe out of it and I need to go off. And now I need to worry if I bypassed. And see, no, you see, this is all doing. And this is not salvation. And so you become quiet in the midst of the turmoil your ego is making, and you don't put a label on. Everything the ego does is turmoil. You know, you get involved in thoughts going, oh, my next door neighbor, she's such a nice person. That's turmoil. That's turmoil. You've left the quiet center and you've gone it back into hell. You've mixed yourself with the ego thought system and you've attacked your neighbor, and only because you attacked yourself first. Because she's not a person. And she's not a different type of person than the neighbor the other side. Because there's only one truth of everyone. There's only one life. Hearing is everything in everyone. And you are that life. And so, you know, it seems harmless. Let me just go back into thoughts for a while. My neighbor is such a nice person. She looks after me. She's a good person. You've attacked her. You've seen her as a person and not Christ. You've seen her as a creature of time. You've seen her as something different to what you are and something different to what the other neighbor is. You've seen her as an ego and not as the one life that's appearing as everything and everyone, the I am that she is, the I am that you are. And this is what the course is teaching us about the now and the quiet center. It's saying, don't be getting involved with thoughts. If you do, you're in hell. It'll seem like a dream for a little while, and it's all going to turn to crap quickly. Very quickly. Because even the neighbor that you're going, she's such a nice neighbor, and I think she's a lovely person and she's a good person. And then three of your friends phone you up and go, she went onto Facebook and she says you're a bitch. And suddenly you're like, oh, she's a terrible person. She's a rat person. I can't believe it. And I always knew there was something wrong with her. You're lost in illusion. You're lost in illusion. The minute you get involved in thoughts, you're lost. You come home to the equanimity that's here, because it's the equanimity that's everyone. So thanks a million for that. So shall we go to Lynn next then, Eli?
Yes.
Lynn, go for it.
Me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Lynn, me? Okay. Kate, it's about resistance. There's something I don't understand in the book, the chapter 30 at the New Beginning, where it says on the first paragraph, and if you find resistance strong and dedication weak, you're not ready. Don't fight yourself. I use that, you're not ready. I feel for the last few years, I feel I'm not ready. I use that because I fight. I'm resistant inside. I feel resistance, and because of that, I'm not ready. But I don't understand why it's written this way, because that serves me. That serves certainly the ego.
No, this is very important. Resistance is the strangest, weirdest thing. If you totally forgive it, it vanishes. Okay? I swear. I promise. But the problem is that resistance is here and we tense up and we go, what do I do about it? And how do I fix it? And where do I find my salvation in the future? Or if I do this and I'll do this for me and I'll do this and I'm still resisting. And why am I still resisting? And I need to do something about the resistance. No, you don't. You need to forgive it. You see, because you think you're the mind. That's not you. That's just a big ball of insanity that pretends to be you. You don't have private thoughts because you're not a private person. You're the one life that's appearing as all the world. Unless you believe thoughts. So forget. So you just think you're the mind. You just think that you're thinking those thoughts. You think you're thinking, but you're not. They're just thoughts. Okay. And so, what is resistance but a thought? I don't want to do forgiveness. What is that? It's a thought. Is that thought you? Or are you the one that can witness it without judgment?
So when I resist, it's a thought. Okay. And if I'm resisting because I'm fearful, I'm frightened, the fear is still a thought. Yes?
You are that within which all the objects of consciousness arise, but you're not an object. And all you have to do is come home to what you are, that within which all the objects of thoughts and feelings arise and dissolve. So you come home here through forgiveness. And you totally welcome, allow, and stop trying to do something with resistance. Stop seeking salvation in 10 seconds' time when you do something with resistance, and instead totally forgive it exactly being here.
So there's no, why he says you're not ready. If you find resistance strong, it means you're not ready. At
Because
any moment, okay.
Because if you fight it, you're trying to do something. So obviously you read A Course in Miracles. So what is your only function?
Forgive, right.
Okay, so what do you do with resistance?
Forgive it.
You don't try and do something about it. You don't try and force yourself. That's sacrifice. That's trying to be a holy ego. That's seeking, that's believing the ego is lies, that salvation is when I get rid of the existence. It's not. Salvation is the forgiveness of the resistance. Because what's here in the midst of the forgiveness?
Right.
What is here, Lynn, in the midst of total forgiveness?
It's always here is peace, where I am.
So there's nothing to do except come home here. Because you're not a person, you're this. Now you'll venture and you'll go, what's the harm in being a person for a while until hell comes? And it will always come. And all you want to do is each time come back here through forgiveness. You are that which is appearing as a person, but the person has nothing to do with your identity. That's the matrix of the mind. Peace is always here. A quiet center. It's always here. That's who you are. Like salvation's done. Course in Miracles goes, salvation's done. It's over. All you have to do is accept it. You've just said peace is always here. Salvation is you accept it. This is what I am.
So
But there's
whenever I
fear.
feel I'm not ready, it's the ego talking.
Well, that's a thought.
Wait,
Now, so that's
that's
a thought.
a thought.
But that's a thought that says, I'm not ready. Now, go and tell me if you can find the one who's thinking that thought.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you find her?
No. But that's a good excuse that works often. I'm not ready because I'm fighting myself, you see?
Yeah, but you see, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. Just stop it. The miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still. Do you see the way you're still trying to do something? You just said peace is always here. Well, what are you trying to do? What do you have to do? I need do nothing. Only if you overlook peace, mix yourself with thoughts, experience the sin, guilt, and fear and resistance and all the rest of it. And now you're going, what do I need to do? There's nothing for you to do except get the hell out of the misidentification that you're in and come home to the peace that's already here. How do I do that? Total forgiveness and surrender. Never fight resistance.
So it's not a matter of being ready or not. If I want peace,
you just said peace is always here.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do. There's nothing to merit. There's nothing to become. There's nothing to achieve. You just said peace is always here through forgiveness. So resistance is here, and you decide, I'm going to forgive this, and peace is here. Well, that's it. That's it. You are peace. The mind isn't you. You come home to the truth of who you are. So what's the problem? Forgiveness brings you home, not battling resistance. Because forgiveness reveals the peace you already are. And then it will transmute the resistance into itself.
Mm.
Not if you fight it. Not if you're trying to do something. Only the ego is trying to do something. What is there for you to do? You just said peace is always here. So there's no problem. That doesn't mean sin, guilt, and fear isn't going to have to come up and be seen in your mind. It is. But so what? You are the peace that sees it. Make no mistake. This is not about, oh, I come home to the peace and it's all bliss states and it's fabulous. That's not what we're talking about. You come home to the peace so that all of the sin, guilt, and fear can come up and get undone by your peace.
Okay.
Yeah. So whatever discomfort is coming up, and call it what you want, your job is to totally forgive it being here. And that brings you home to the quiet center where the Holy Spirit dwells. And you make
Okay.
your stand here in the midst of whatever's going on. Shame, guilt, fear, anger, self-loathing, regret. I don't care what it is. Grief, resistance. It doesn't matter what it is. That's the weather coming up to be healed by your equanimity in the midst of it. So this is not a journey of where, oh, I come home to the peace and it's all fabulous and I get up every morning and the birds are singing to me and they're doing my chores and the angels have descended from the sky and it's all. No, it's not. No, it's not. You come home to peace and you allow all of the terror and the guilt and the fear and this, you allow all that to surface, that it be undone. Because this is the sin, guilt, and fear that you put there as an obstacle to God. So your job is to now look at it without the stories that it's because of the world. Look at it without the stories that it's because of what I body did, what another body did. No, it's not. They're thoughts. This is the sin, guilt, and fear. And I will witness it without thoughts. Or at the very least, by not listening to any of the nonsense thoughts are telling me about it.
So
never get involved with thoughts.
Like you said, even if it takes minutes, hours, months, years, it's not because I'm not ready.
No, you see,
that's the conclusion.
No. Are we still? How long it takes? Has that got anything to do with now?
So, okay.
See, because you're still in the accomplishment, the doing, my salvation in the future. There's no salvation in the future. Salvation, the peace is already here. Make your stand at it. And as you make your stand at it, everything else dissolves before you. The gates of hell fall before you.
Why?
But only now. Don't get involved with the future. That's the mind's tricks. There's only now. There's nothing to attain. There is just the equanimity that is here in this moment.
I get caught in the thoughts of the past. I've been so long in this. It seems like it takes a lot.
Yeah, they're only thoughts. All you have to do is go, are those thoughts me, or am I the space in which they have risen and will dissolve? You were here before those thoughts arose. You'll be here when they're gone. So what? They're not you. Your only problem is that you mistake them for yourself. They're not you. That's not you. That's madness. You have no private thoughts. But there is private thoughts of which you are aware. What can they mean? They do not exist and they mean nothing. Don't get involved with them. How do I not get involved with them? Forgive them instead of getting involved with them, instead of believing them.
Why?
It's just noise. Don't call it good noise or bad noise or past noise or future. It's all just noise. Don't get involved with the noise. It's not you. You're the silence. You're the peace that's already here. You make your stand as this and let this undo everything that needs to be undone. You be what you already are in the present moment. Everything else is just the mind's tricks. Don't get involved. Don't fall for it. Get the hell out of hell. Does that make sense?
So much. Merci.
So,
Thank you. Okay.
thanks, Lynn.
Merci.
Okay, so we'll
Thank you.
put a line under the hands up. Is there anything in the chat box to deal with, Eli?
There's 3 questions in the chat
All
box.
right, let's have them.
Okay, and then we'll put a line under that one.
We
Okay.
will.
So this will be Abby. She says, would Dcart's statement, "I think, therefore I am," be more accurate if I said, "I think, therefore I am a separate self, ego"?
100%. Descartes gave voice to the universal delusion, which was to equate being with thinking. That's the universal delusion. So I think, therefore I am is the ego's definition of itself, the separate self's definition of itself. But there's no such thing as a separate self. Being has nothing to do with thinking. Thinking is an appearance of being, but being is totally independent of it. Before Abraham was, I am. And as our course was saying, before the past was, it was now. So, no, Descartes gave voice to the universal error. One of the things that the course does, because Helen is a psychologist, Jesus pokes jokes at her, going, you who are because you think. He makes reference to that, and commenters on A Course in Miracles and teachers of A Course in Miracles have pointed out how Jesus is applauding Descartes for saying, "I think, therefore I am." He is not. He's having fun with Helen, going, "You who are because you think." You need to look at the context of it. Your ego is because you think you're thinking. Course in Miracles is teaching us the thoughts I think are not my real thoughts, and they don't really exist. I'm not really thinking them. When you think you're thinking about the past and the future, your mind's actually blank because you're not really thinking about anything. Lesson 8. Eat your heart out, Descartes. Okay, so no. Now the Course talks about real thoughts, and real thoughts would be love, oneness, unity, innocence. Those are real thoughts. But again, A Course in Miracles points out that your real thoughts have no resemblance whatsoever to what you think are your real thoughts. The thoughts of good and bad and right and wrong and good for me and bad for me, good person, bad person. Okay, all of that is nonsense. That has nothing to do with your real thoughts, because your real thoughts are abstract, impersonal, non-specific. They apply to everything and exclude nothing. That will be real thought. So they bear no resemblance to the dualistic, holy and unholy, good and bad, past and future. Your real thoughts have no resemblance to that. So thank you for the question. But yeah, Descartes gave, and it's widely recognized that he gave vent to the universal delusion, not the universal truth. So thank you for that, Abby. Question number 2.
Yes, we go to Julie. She says, I have a question about the real world, as you called it, the emptiness dancing. Does this emptiness equate to the peace you are describing today?
Yes. Yes, but there is. So in the beginning, we are the peace aware of the non-peace. But at some point, there is an awakening. There's a point at which the mind stops or at the very least, there's zero identification with thoughts. And there's the arrival at a still point. And this is the point where you realize that identity is total illusion, that it's a delusion made of thoughts, that there's no identity without thoughts. So here is a total reality outside of thoughts. And from here I see identity as a total illusion. It was made out of thoughts all along. And when you come back from this still point, there is this point transcends form and emptiness, but includes both. So yeah, it's quite so yes, we are talking about a stillness, but within the stillness is discovered something that goes beyond stillness. It's like what you are is the stillness that is form, and all form is this stillness. It's like form and stillness are one. See, because the mind is the trickster that comes up with the duality, that there's a difference between this and that. So the ego, the mind, is the teacher of differences, the teacher of opposites, the teacher of separateness. And the Holy Spirit is the teacher of sameness. Course says, make this year different by making it all the same. The Holy Spirit changes the purpose of everything, so everything becomes the same. It's all for forgiveness. And so there is this awakening point that you sort of come back into the world from, and you totally, it makes perfect sense that this emptiness is all form and all form is this emptiness. But again, don't turn that into a goal. That will take care of itself. The only thing you can do is remain quiet in the midst of the turmoil the ego makes. The only thing you can do is be fully present now in the midst of the shenanigans of the mind's matrix. And that's it. You can always do that now. It's always now. And seek no salvation in the future. Have no goal. Your goal of God means you have to let all goals go. You cannot have the holy instant when you have hope or when you have fear. That's just the ego's resisting and seeking. You have to let all that go through total forgiveness, total surrender in the present moment. And you do that. That's all you do. Everything else will take care of itself just beautifully. It's all that's asked. That's the little willingness. Just notice that every time you get involved in thoughts, it's not worth it. Starts off harmless. Okay, and it turns to crap in an instant. As the minute you get involved with thoughts, you misperceive yourself as an ego. You plunge into the sin, guilt, and fear, and you deny it and you split it off, and you are out. And the mind is criticizing and critiquing, and it's doing that to manage the sin, guilt, and fear. So sin, guilt, and fear comes up, and the mind starts moving to manage it, seeing other people as more guilty than you are, not as worthy as you are, not as knowledgeable as you are, the cause of your pain. The mind is only moving with those thoughts to manage your sin, guilt, and fear, so it can get projected. But it's not you. The mind isn't you. You need to reach a point in your practice whereby you notice yourself getting involved in thoughts and you go, aha, no. Okay, you need to reach that point. Now, I realize that can be a difficult thing to believe in the beginning, but it's very important that someone like me says to you that literally, I mean, I will notice myself getting involved in thoughts and go, oh no, hell that way lies. Let me come back here and let me undo whatever discomfort came up, but let me not get involved with any thoughts about anything. So I'll notice myself having thoughts going, oh, that was a really nice thing that person did for me. And I think they're a nice person. I'll go, oh my God, no. rewind, rewind. Okay, don't get involved with thoughts. Don't, you have to learn how to not get tricked by them. These thoughts don't mean anything at all. Lesson 4 says the good ones are but shadows of what lies beyond, outside of thoughts, and shadows make sight difficult. And the bad ones are blocks to sight and make seeing impossible. You do not want either. Don't be getting involved in your thoughts. I mean, you will, but the minute you notice it, get the hell out of hell. Come home to the quiet center by forgiving them, not by trying to get rid of them. That's the future. Gospel of now. Fall still in the midst of them. This is your miracle. Miracle says, come home to the quiet center, get the hell out of thoughts. Everything's a call for love or it's an expression of love. No need to get involved with thoughts. All that's required of you is an expression of love. Everything in the world, its only purpose is forgiveness. Forget about all the other meanings. Doesn't mean anything. Everything is for forgiveness. You don't need to get involved with thoughts. Now you'll awaken. Don't get involved in thoughts. Use your right-minded thoughts to unstick you out of thoughts and to get the hell out of them. If you're lost in thoughts, then you just need to remind yourself, this is only for forgiveness. No need to get involved in any of the thoughts. You're out. Oh, this person's done this, and I did this for that person. Look what they're after doing to me, and I think that's a disgrace. And then you go, hang on a minute. They're either expressing love or calling for love. I don't need to get involved with thoughts. Let me come home to the quiet center where love expresses itself effortlessly through me. Gospel of now. And there's only now. Everything else is lying thoughts. It's the matrix. Come home to the quiet center. And forgiveness brings you home every time. That's the Course in Miracles couldn't be simpler. And don't turn any, do not have any spiritual goal in the future. Your only job is to come home to peace now through total forgiveness of this moment. That's it. Do not have any goals. There is always peace waiting for you now. Make your stand here. Everything takes care of itself. Because again, the gates of hell cannot stand against the presence you are now. The atonement. Salvation. All shadows must fall. And all you have to do is come home to now. Was that it, Eli, in the chat box, or have we got one more?
One more.
Go ahead.
It is from Joanna. What is loneliness? Just a thought or an opportunity to be more aware?
It's thinking you're a separate self. So it's getting involved in thoughts, not knowing you are, I am, and thinking you are, I am this. And now you are an I am this that's missing out on all the I am that's. And, and the ego's loneliness does not require isolation, because you can be lonely in the midst of a crowd. You can be lonely in a marriage. You can be lonely with friendships, because the ego can only be unhappy. So if you get involved with thoughts and misperceive yourself, you'll get involved in friendships and you'll get involved in relationships. You go, oh, this is fabulous. They're such a good person. They're so nice to me. It's fabulous. Okay. You see, you went into hell. Okay. And it won't last. because your sin and your guilt and your fear is going to come up and you need someone to blame. And you're going to see faults in the person you thought was fabulous, in your neighbor, in your husband, in your wife. You need someone to blame when you've mixed yourself with thoughts for the fact that nothing completes you. So rather than you coming home to the quiet center to know your completeness now, you've overlooked it. You've gone into hell. You've mixed yourself with thoughts, dressed yourself in thoughts of who you are, your self concept. Your suffering is incredible. And then what you do is you go, I know I will seek salvation in the future through a new relationship, through a new friendship, through a new neighbor acquaintance. And then it seems like heaven for a very little while. Okay. But sooner or later, you're going to have to admit to yourself that my pain is still here. My emptiness is still here. My loneliness is still here. Okay. And now, because the ego takes responsibility for nothing, you will make it your neighbor's fault or your friend's fault or your husband's fault. Okay. So you who denied yourself the peace that's always here in the present moment, you deliberately went into hell, you mixed yourself in thoughts, you dressed yourself in the self concept, your suffering was enormous, and you went, I know I'll seek salvation through this person. They will be the sunlight that will give my life meaning. And sooner or later, you realize, well, that doesn't work, okay, because it doesn't. And now you go, yeah, they're not a good person. Look at all I've done for them. They've done nothing for me. Okay, it's madness. Okay, anything except coming home to the quiet center in the now is madness. The seeking of your salvation in anything other than that is insanity. It is pure madness. You have denied yourself the only place happiness is, to go where happiness is not, identifying with the mind, okay? And then, having done that, you play this game where you say, I, the mind, the insane voice talking to itself, this lacking, needing, wanting thing, I will find my happiness out in the world. No, you won't. No, you won't. You veiled happiness from you because it's what you are. And that's why in the Course it says, do you want to be right or happy? There is no happiness in the world because there's no cause in the world. It's nothing. It's emptiness dancing. The images can give you nothing except a perfect opportunity to undo the sin, guilt, and fear coming up in your mind and remember God. There's nothing else. It's insane. There's no one going to save you. No change in your body's condition is going to save you. No amount of forgiveness is going to forgive you. No awakening in the future is going to save you. Only the now will save you. That's what the gospel of now is saying. Only the now will save you. Because it's outside thought. It's past and future are just thought. Only the now will save you. And it's always now. That's the good news. What's my salvation? The now. What time is it? Now. Let me fall still. Let me fall quiet in the midst of the turmoil the matrix is making. And let remember the stillness that I am. That's all you can do. That's all that's asked. That's the little willingness. Do nothing. Cease all doing. Become quiet in the midst of the turmoil the ego makes, that you learn the turmoil isn't you. That the stillness that is here, the quiet center, tell you of itself. That's it. Always. Guys, thanks a million for your attention. I hope you got something useful out of today's episode. We will catch up in the Facebook group during the week, and we will do it all again next week. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thanks, Keith. It was great.